This is Timeout with uSTADIUM. This podcast is for you sports superfans, for you sports debaters, and yes, you, the sports opinionators or hot takers. We take your calls live on air.
Look at us with a little intro music. Let's go.
Get it at uSTADIUM.com. Join in on the conversation with Brianna, Nick, and Frankie. Timeout with uSTADIUM starts now.
Okay, so we're legit. Nick's got his ring light. We have an intro. Guys, I mean, that sounds
stepping it up.
Sick. That sounds awesome. That's better. That's definitely better than just doing like that little live countdown thing with the whatever music it plays on there. That sounds awesome. Shout out to whoever did that. My gosh.
Shout outs to Fiverr. Shout outs to Kate on Fiverr. You crushed that, girl. I owe you.
Kate. We love that.
She killed that.
That's unbelievable. All right. Well, hi, guys. How we doing on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, evening, whatever?
It's beautiful.
How we doing?
Mets got a cheap win, so that was fun.
What happened in the game? I didn't even see it. I heard everyone tweeting about it.
It was bases loaded for Conforto. It was like a 1-2 count, and he's been terrible, like awful. He stranded like 16 runners in 4 games. And he leaned in with his shoulder, his elbow pad, and the ball hit his pad. It was a strike. He like leaned over, over the plate, and the ump called it a strike 3 with one. It was 1 out, but bases were loaded in the bottom of the 9th. And he clearly leaned in, and the ump just said, at first he was about to ring him up, and then he said it hit him, and basically it was a hit by pitch walk off. So you'll see the highlights of it, but it was definitely weak sauce for sure. But
we'll take it. Yeah, no, you guys need as many of those wins as possible.
A win is a win. So earlier this week, we had some breaking Jets news. You guys were in the news. Something that we all kind of expected was going to happen finally happened. Sam Darnold is out of here, and he is now a Carolina Panther. So who called that? One of you guys called it.
I don't know. Remind me, Frank?
Oh, please.
Upon
further review, I was wrong. However, I did say it wasn't going to be a second-round pick this year. So I'm technically not wrong because it's a second-round pick next year, which, as your brother was saying, Nick, based on value, is actually worth a third-round pick in essence because it's next year. So just throwing that out there. You were pretty spot on, but you both were pretty spot on. But, I mean, you guys weren't 100% right here. So
when they
don't
do
make
the
me out to be the bad guy.
The value chart, like the Jimmy Johnson, like classic value draft board chart or draft pick value chart, I believe if the Panthers finish within the top 15 next year, top 15 pick, it would be the equivalent of, I believe, the 42nd overall pick. So it would be 6th rounder this year has a certain amount of value to it. 2nd rounder next year and a 4th rounder next year. The equivalent is about between 40 and 42 next year. So essentially it's a value of a early to mid 2nd round pick. But, credit to Joe Douglas for kind of waiting and being able to, figure out what they wanted to do at quarterback. Obviously they're going to draft a quarterback, and it's probably going to be Zach Wilson. And they found a spot where Darnold, it's a nice spot. It's also out of the conference, which, you always would rather do that. And it's a spot where the Panthers have a little bit of talent. They have some talent where he can play well, and, you hope well for him because he is a good dude. But it's not a great team that your 2nd round pick next year is probably not going to be in like the late 20s or 30s. So there's a chance that could be an early 2nd round pick next year. So it worked all the way around. And, Jets get those pick up some extra picks to build around a Zach Wilson or, build the defense. And he gets a chance to go reunite with Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Brady, Matt Rule, who really liked him. That's why he wanted to, he was really interested in the Jet job in 2019, I believe it was. So all the way around, it was a pretty solid deal. And I think we have a little bit of evidence of what Bree and I were saying last show about the trade, right, Splash? Did we do
I don't
want to
see it. I've seen it too many times. I've gotten it sent to me. I've watched it.
People were calling you out?
I was, you know what? I wasn't technically wrong. I wasn't right, but I wasn't wrong.
See,
I guess.
I want to see this clip. What am I missing?
Flash,
I'm never wrong. I'm just not always right. Okay? Can we?
Yeah, or whatever.
My mother says that I say.
I think Splash is trying to grab it, but we can send it if not.
But basically, regarding
the
Darnold trade, I thought it was a surprise for me, especially not thinking that the Jets were going to be able to nail a second rounder out of this. Joe Douglas waited till the end. The Washington football team and the 49ers were apparently chatting earlier last month with the Jets, trying to deal or vet the Darnold situation, and it ended up being the Panthers. The Panthers were obviously either looking to move up or looking into Deshaun Watson. I think both those scenarios sort of went out, were off the table for them, and then they settled with Darnold. It is a little bit strange, Sam Darnold going into a place where Teddy Bridgewater is already technically, their starter, I guess. I don't know how that situation is going to play out. It's a bit weird. They're both very similar in value, wouldn't you say? I mean, I wouldn't say that one's better than the other. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. That's a legitimate camp battle there in Carolina. So, but again, I wish Darnold the best. Being a Jets fan my entire life, I wish these guys the best, even if they didn't play well here and they had a lot of misfortunes and we didn't win a lot of games. You always wish guys the best when they go elsewhere. It reminds me of almost when Pennington went to Miami and he had that great season. It was a division rival, but you have to wish your fellow quarterback the best. So good for Darnold.
Especially when he's a good kid. He did nothing wrong here. He didn't burn bridges like a Jamal Adams. I can admit I don't want to see Adams do well. I just don't like the guy. So I didn't want him, obviously, because we have their draft pick too, as Jet fans. I didn't want to see him go to Seattle and do well. So I wasn't never a fan of his, but regardless, I didn't want to see him, end up doing well, with Seattle. But it was interesting because, we did report. So it went down this weekend was Carolina really tried to go hard after Watson. They were doing their own investigation on the situation. It didn't feel like he was going to be moved anytime soon. He's not going to be cleared anytime soon. Houston can't just go out and trade him right now. It looks terrible. They obviously talked around. The Falcons weren't going to trade them pick number 4 to get a quarterback. They saw what they had to give up based on the San Francisco trade. They didn't want to pay that steep price. So I got a text Saturday saying, watch out for Carolina. They're very serious after Darnold. I guess they were talking pretty much Friday and Saturday. Didn't expect it to happen. I thought it was going to be something where it led, into the draft, because Carolina would attempt to move up. And, Tepper, the owner, was obsessed about getting a top quarterback, whether it was Watson, Wilson, or a trade. Those never materialized. I guess the asking price was too high. And Matt Rule really did like Sam Darnold. So that's what ultimately, made them push through and sweeten the deal in order to get the Jets to accept it. But, they did have talks, all of last week. The Niners and Washington, like we did report, were the two teams that were the most interested. 49ers felt like they were close to a deal for a while with Darnold, but they were never able to, I guess, the Jets weren't able to get what they wanted. And the Jets really did want to wait until these pro days and these physicals to make sure that they were all in on this class. So, when the reports came out in, a few weeks before free agency, I think it was maybe in early March, they wanted to see these pro days, see for themselves, up close and personal, see how the ball comes out of these guys' hands to make sure that they were going to make this investment in a Zach Wilson. We probably should have listened to that. I guess we were all kind of skeptical about it. We were like, hey, I think they should just trade him. And we thought they were going to get rid of him then, but played out kind of like the way that Joe Douglas said it would. So that's the
shout out to Joe Douglas. That's all I have to say. Yep. Big round of applause. My man is just eating on and off the field. Or on and off the table. That guy is killing it. I love
better draft well.
Joe Douglas.
That's what it comes down to now.
If I open invite, please get this out to Joe Douglas. I want to bring him to Cutlets & Co. and we will give him as many cutlets as he could fit in there. We will get him. They got the number 3. They got the number 4. One has ranch and bacon. The other one has broccoli rabe and fresh mozzarella. Let's go. We got to get Joey D.
That does sound good. I think
he
Splash
would
has.
love it.
I think Splash has the clip ready to go of where you said that you would buy us sandwiches if Darnold.
Best producer in the game.
Look at him. What a guy.
Oh my God. I look terrible there. Jeez.
We look miserable. It was cold that day.
Summer's here.
Yeah.
Oh, spring.
Is there sound on there? I can't hear
I
it.
don't hear it.
Yeah, I don't think there's sound.
I just want to hear. I just want to hear the part where Frankie says that he's going to get us sandwiches. Well, regardless about this whole situation, I think it's great for the Jets because I think they got a pretty decent value for Darnold, all things considered. The talk about now Teddy Bridgewater potentially ending up in San Francisco is very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the way his contract works is if he gets dealed to, for example, San Francisco, and then they end up paying him, I think it's like maybe the example I heard was if they pay him $12 million, Carolina eats the majority of that contract. And if they're serious about maybe Jimmy's not the guy and they're actually going to draft a quarterback and maybe potentially redshirt him for this year, Teddy Bridgewater would be like the no-brainer. You're not paying him next to anything. You know that he's capable of being a starter. And if the rookie ends up being better than expected, having a better camp than expected, things like that, and he's ready to go by mid-season, Bridgewater's the type of guy where he knows what his role is in this league. I think if he gets benched for the rookie to start, he's not the type that's going to go scorched earth and MF the team up and down. But with Jimmy, I think that would burn a lot of bridges, not only in the locker room, with the fan base. So I think this whole Teddy Bridgewater and the 49ers thing is kind of an interesting thing to follow. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It could, it couldn't, who knows? But I feel like it's very interesting to follow. So
I think Teddy played well last year. I have his numbers here. He had a 69.1 completion percentage. He had 3,733 yards, 15 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Nothing groundbreaking. It was 15 games, so he missed a game, which won't affect his stats all that much. But I thought Teddy played pretty well. I thought he played well enough where he deserved another year to be the starter. But he still may. I mean, we'll see what Sam Darnold does there. I think from the Panthers' perspective, I don't think that's a good deal for them. I mean, you have all these quarterbacks in this draft that are coming out. You have potentially Deshaun Watson, who's available. Even Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, would have been a better option for them than Sam Darnold. It's a reclamation project. I don't know what Darnold's going to do in Carolina. I would be surprised if Darnold goes out there and kills it next year. I seriously would.
Really?
I would love to hear people's thoughts in the comments. I'd be shocked. If Darnold goes to Carolina and has, 4,400 yards and 26 touchdowns, I would be literally stunned. I think he's I don't know, something with him. I don't know what's going on with his game. It's probably a confidence thing, but he needs a few years, in my opinion, to really get to a point where he's delivering the ball with confidence, not turning the ball over, and winning football games, which is what this league comes down to. And maybe that's why Teddy Bridgewater has him coming in, because he was 4-11 last year. But again, I just don't see Darnold coming out there next year in Carolina and being this special talent that we thought he was when the Jets drafted him third. I don't think we're going to see that next year. Honestly, I don't think we're ever going to see it. If you want my
I agree. It's going to take such a drastic turnover to make Darnold a legitimate quarterback because he's been so bad. So even if, as a reclamation project, like I know everybody goes back to like Adam Gase and Tannehill, but like that stuff doesn't happen a lot, if ever, for a guy that late in his career to have such a, coming out party. And Tannehill even showed in Miami before Gase, he was pretty decent. He wasn't terrible like Darnold is now. He wasn't great like I wouldn't say he's still great with Tennessee, but he wasn't very good. He wasn't terrible like Darnold has been. So he's always been okay. He just took his game to the next level when he got a different coach, Derrick Henry and, A.J. Brown. But I don't think Darnold's going to go there and be great. He's going to go there and he's going to start, and Teddy will be gone. They're not going to bring him back. They already said that they'll go and let him seek a trade. They picked up Darnold's fifth-year option, so he's going to be at least a 2-year window as a starter for Carolina, unless, if one of these quarterbacks fall, like Fields does fall, Lance falls, and they're sitting in Carolina's lap, like you probably have to take them. But I think Darnold's going to get at least 2 years here in Carolina, and then they'll kind of readjust there. But I wish him well. I definitely do. But I just don't see how. I agree with you, Frank. I don't think he's going to just drastically improve so much that he's going to become a really good starting quarterback.
I don't necessarily think I agree that I don't think he's going to come in and make like a world of difference. I definitely don't think he's going to lead them to a Super Bowl. But I think a change of scenery is going to be great for him. I mean, his career as a Jet wasn't the best. I mean, he had to deal with Gase. We all know how we all feel about him as a coach and the situation that Sam had to go through. But I think the offense is better in Carolina.
Definitely.
I think especially he's back with Robbie Anderson. I mean, I'm not saying that they were like Matt Ryan and Julio, like they had a connection like that, but they were pretty good together.
Yeah.
And he's comfortable with him because he's played before with each other. So I don't necessarily think he's gonna like be an all-world quarterback right now, but I definitely think it's gonna be an improvement from the Sam Darnold we've seen for the last 2 years. Like he's definitely not going to go down there and have his seeing ghosts game like he did against the Pats that year. Like I
agree.
It'll be good.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because and it puts a lot of pressure on Joe Brady too because he interviewed with almost every team in this coaching circuit. Like he's putting his reputation into Sam Darnold. Like if he goes and Darnold has a really good year this year, he's leaving and he's getting a head coaching job. He was close to getting one this year. So if he turns around Darnold, look at Arthur Smith with Tennessee. Turned around Tannehill, he's the head coach of the Falcons. But if Brady goes and doesn't have a great, him and Darnold aren't, this great tandem, he doesn't have that swag that really, everybody compares him young and innovative to Sean McVay. He doesn't have that swag that McVay has, that confidence. He's more quiet and reserved. Similar to like Arthur Smith is, but Brady is going to, it's an interesting player to put hang your head coaching future on is Sam Darnold. So he's got a lot riding on him too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, going forward. Like, I don't know if I would, hitch my wagon to Sam Darnold and risk my entire career on that, but it's interesting.
That's fair. Well, in a couple minutes, we are going to have a special guest on, and we're going to talk insane draft stuff. We've got Connor Rogers from Bleacher Report coming on. We've got a whole lineup of questions for him, conversation points, and we're also going to have you guys kind of chime in too. So if you want to ask Connor some questions when we get him on here, just make sure you either drop it in the comments or you can do a call in. We'll figure that out. We'll get that to work. The number to call in is 678-675-5118. And I'm sure Splash will put that up there. Look at him right on cue. What a guy. He's unbelievable. Man. He is unbelievable. All right. So while we wait for Connor, this is something we haven't really talked about before. We've talked about all the quarterbacks in this draft, but I feel like that's it. So this one's a little interesting. Who are your biggest sleepers in this draft? Because like I said, the quarterbacks are really getting all the spotlight, and I feel like we're not talking about pretty much anybody else. So Frank, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I would love to take this one. There is a player in this draft that should be considered the top player at his position, and he's outside of the top 5 on most draft boards. And I'm calling it right now. This player is going to do what his fellow teammate did in the NFL this season, and that player is in the NFL is Justin Jefferson. So, Nick, who am I talking about now?
Terrace Marshall.
Yes. Terrace Marshall Jr., TMJ, is going to be a household name, and I'm calling it right now. He is a freak. He's 6'3". He runs a 4.38. He's fluid. He goes up and gets it. He's a red zone threat. He doesn't have a weakness in his game. If you look at his comments recently that he made to the media, he said what separates him from every other receiver in this draft is versatility on the field. But more than that, It's his ability to be a great teammate overall. You're going to get the hardest worker, he said, if not the hardest worker that the team's ever. He had 10 because it was 7 games. Jamar Chase in 2019 had 20 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, though, had Joe Burrow in 2019. He had Miles Brennan and Max Johnson basically as his quarterbacks. This guy is big time. Terrace Marshall is, I would put him above Kadarius Toney. I'd put him above Rashad Bateman. I would.
You like him better than Waddle?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I figured you did.
He's third for me. I obviously have Jamar 1. I have Smith 2, and then I have him 3. Him and Waddle are close, but give me this guy. He's 6'3" and a 4.38 guy. Look at him go up and get the ball. He looks like Justin Jefferson, and he's taller than Justin Jefferson. This guy,
it's crazy. It's crazy how like the receiving, like how stacked LSU and Alabama have been in the past few years. Like alone, it's going to be Justin Jefferson. You mentioned Jamar Chase this year, Terrace Marshall. Then Alabama, you had Judy and Ruggs last year, and this year you have Waddle and Devonta. Like those are insane. All first round receivers. It's crazy.
All right, Nick, who's yours?
It's a good one. It's so random. Like Marshall's a fun receiver.
I can't wait for this one.
I love
a lunch pail kind of guy.
Tight end from Notre Dame. Like he's got, so it's a dying breed. Like it's a dying art. Is tight ends who block, and this guy blocks. Like one of the best run blockers in college football, as you can see here. PFF 83.7 blocking grade last season. Doesn't happen anymore. But he's not just your like sluggish guy who, sticks on the line of scrimmage and blocks guys. He can move to all 3 spots. He can receive. He's a good pass catcher. He's athletic. I could see him in as a fullback in a fullback role, with a team. I'm trying to think of like a good fit for him in a Shanahan offense, let's say. Like exactly. Jeremiah, inline, wing, or fullback. Perfectly said. Guys like Tremble are a dying breed. I think like you have these, like, I know everybody wants to talk about Kyle Pitts and everybody wants to talk about Pat Freiermuth from Penn State and Brevin Jordan from Miami. These are your receiving types, but this guy is somebody who's going to play in the NFL for a long time. He's not going to be like a flash in the pan. He's going to come out and like have 800 yards and 8 touchdowns like a Kyle Pitts could, but this guy is a guy who's a piece on a really good winning offense, not a fantasy football offense. I think he's going to go. I would not be surprised if he's a second tight end taken. I love him. I would love him on the Jets. I think he's a perfect fit for, like I said, a Shanahan offense. He could do so much, and he's so undervalued because he's not that like superstar wide receiver. And he's like that's the epitome of an underrated guy, is someone who's going to do the dirty work like he does, but like don't sleep on his athleticism because he could do it all. And I love the household, like, Notre Dame tough guy. Like I'm all about that. I'm going to probably, if I don't ask Connor about him on air, I'm going to ask about him off air because he's a guy. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the second round, but I'm a big Tremble fan, and I'm going to ask Connor probably during the show, and somehow I'll slip it in.
Well, all right. So we should be getting him in here shortly. So make sure you keep that thought in the back of your mind. Don't forget.
I will.
I don't think I have a sleeper just because I don't like. It sounds so bad because this is my job. This is what I do for a living. I hate the draft. I hate it. It's just, I just can't get into it.
You can't say that before Connor.
I know. I'm
Connor's
hoping
gonna hang up.
He can I'm hoping he can kind of change my ways and show me reasons A, B, and C as to why I shouldn't feel that way. But I guess maybe I just don't watch enough college football.
Well, you're a Patriots
really
fan, so the way Belichick drafts, I don't blame you that you hate the draft.
Right. It's never something I'm going to get locked in on a player in college and be like, oh, I want Bill to draft him, because there's a 0% chance that that's going to happen. So I guess why get my hopes up? I don't know.
True.
I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, the Patriots, you used to be in the playoffs every year. And
okay, relax. It's
Jet fans, we look forward to the draft more than anything. It's like we hope and pray that we get this savior to come in and change life. And then the Grim Reaper comes and kills all our quarterbacks. That's what happens. So, yeah.
You
Did you see that meme, Nick?
You like that one.
It's like he's opening the door and it's like Zach Wilson's behind it. He's got a big axe. It's like he's ready to get him.
I guess that's while we wait for him. I guess that's another thing I don't understand is people that like get dressed up like they're going to games and then they're just going to the draft. Is that like I'm
hating on the draft? Is
I don't
Connor
know.
here?
Like, I'm
Bring
just
him
asking.
in if he is.
I'm asking.
Connor, is he here, Splash? If he is, throw him in.
I'm just asking questions. Is
I
that like a
need-
normal thing
Good,
for you
he's
guys?
here.
There
Connor.
he is.
Is that not the most offensive introduction? To
Anyway,
the guy who
expert
lives and
Connor.
sleeps this thing?
This time of year, I hate the draft too, because now it's like we've been, at least I've been, keeping up with it for too long, embarrassingly long. And then you have like the national reporters that are like, hey, did you hear about this guy? And it's like a first round pick. And it's like, yeah, we know, like, it just becomes, now we're over talking about everything. And, the arguments are the same every single day for like 90 days in a row.
Literally,
So
it's exhausting.
I mean,
Hear about this guy,
it's why I have a
Greg
job.
Newsome?
So exactly. It's why I have a job. So I try not to talk down on it too much, but I understand why people have draft fatigue. I totally get it.
I feel
Okay,
like
so
I
I
feel
don't
like as
feel
we
as
go
bad
on,
now.
it's like longer and longer though. Like this process gets like worse and worse. I think it's because it's gotten to the NFL's credit, it's gotten a lot more popular and people are really into it. But what it does is now the NFL is like, now it's like April 29th. It's like, damn, this shit used to be April 22nd. Like, why are we doing this another week?
Right,
Rough.
exactly. You look at it and it's good for someone like me that I get an extra week or two to prepare, especially in a year where there was no combine. I wasn't on the road this year, which is miserable. But on the flip side, things become recycled. Like we've been talking about Mac Jones at 3 now for 2 weeks straight, it feels like. And it's what we're going to hear. Now everybody's going to start walking that back and then bringing it back forward. So there's a lot of good things with the draft, and credit to the NFL. I mean, they've made it a monster. It really is. Like people care about the draft as much as the Super Bowl almost.
It's so true. I like it way better than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Because every team's involved. That's why.
Yeah, that's
so.
what it is. Yeah.
And like you guys said off the top, we all grew up Jets fans. I know Brianna, you didn't, but like that was our beacon of hope. Like you looked at the draft, like, oh, maybe things will be okay now. So it's the same thing over and over again every year. And there's a lot of bad franchises in the NFL, and that it brings those fans in or keeps those fans around.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
so
that's
true.
why. Maybe it's because I'm a spoiled brat for the 20 out of 24 years of my life. That like the draft is just like another day, another weekend for me. I don't know.
We didn't even get to give
fun, right? When you're picking in the late 20s, because you're looking at players that but then I don't know. It's crazy. Now they've made it where like we care so much about round 2, 3. I mean, this is the first time I really feel like day 3. Now people are like, people know the players on day 3. Like back in the day, it was like, oh, I'm going to learn about these guys on draft weekend. Now the common fan like knows their favorite day 3 players.
Connor, it's kind of ridiculous.
Credit to you guys and stuff, though. Shows
all
like
these
what you guys do. It's great.
These mock drafts are insane, though. You have fans doing 7-round mocks. Like,
well, the simulators.
Yeah.
Do these people know people in the 6th and 7th round? Let's be honest. It's insanity.
It's how they find their favorite players, because they work the simulator and they see the same 5 names available to them every time they make pick 186 for the Jets or whatever it is, 226. And then they go, well, I really want that guy. And after I Googled him, maybe I watched 3 games on YouTube. Like, I think the availability, this is something the NFL does not like, especially the old school NFL scouts. The transparency and the availability of, if it's not game film, broadcast film on YouTube, the fact that anybody can really turn on their computer and do this now, right? Like now, not everybody's going to be great at it, but it's completely changed the game where you have fans that can question their GM about a player they took in the 3rd round because they've watched 6 games of that player. And then a lot of the times the fans will be right. So it's, the passion is good. I'll say that. It's great. Honestly, it really is great. It just has completely changed the dynamic of being an NFL fan, and the fact that it's now 365 league, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. I know. And it allows fans also, they start, as you were saying before, they build these affinities with these players, and they even go out of their way to reach out to some of these guys on social media, and they're adding the Jets, saying to pick up this tight end in the late 7th round. And it's interesting.
Tommy
You see
Tremble.
agents are getting involved.
That's a good one.
Tommy Tremble.
Sorry.
And the mock simulators too is like, just, I mean, I'm not even kidding. And I'm not saying this in like being a jerk. Like, I'll wake up sometimes, and the first thing I see when I look at my phone is somebody just tagging me and saying thoughts, and it's screenshot the Mock Simulator. I can't tell you how many mornings I wake up or go to bed, and that's the last first thing I see. And like I try to answer them, but eventually there's so many times where it's like, how many times can I see Jamin Davis, who's going in the first round, be available at like pick 104? And it's just like at some point the mock simulators are it's great, but it's also creating like a false hope in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't even bother. I don't know. I just let you guys
go into mock simulator world.
I let you guys just take care of all of that stuff.
285 mock drafts later.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm good with the one that like Kuiper puts out, and then I'm all set. That's all I need for the whole season. But going into this, because of the pandemic, obviously last year was a little weird. It was the start of this whole thing. We're a year removed. No combine. How are teams handling this? How are I guess processes changing? How are people kind of just going about this, because it hasn't obviously been like this before?
Yeah, it is an interesting question, and they are really relying on area scouts that have team sources within schools, and they do that every year to an extent, because the quick summary of it is an area scout's going to go and do his visits, and he's going to go and get a body type on the player and watch him practice. And they used to go into the school and watch all his film there. I mean, now you could have a hard drive of the film wherever you want, so that's not really a thing anymore. And then you'd get a good feel for the guy. But you always hear stories of like some players turn it on that practice when they know scouts are there and it's not real. You hear crazy things, but you don't have any of that this year, right? So that's number one. That's a little different. You're relying on your area scouts knowing that coaching staff, and quite frankly, trusting that coaching staff, because not every coaching staff is going to be transparent or honest. I mean, it's hard, right, for a coach to sit there and tell someone that the player they've coached for 3 or 4, sometimes 5 years, they wouldn't want them on their team again. And unfortunately, those things happen, but it's the real part of the business that you need the relationships to get the, right opinions. So that's number one. And number two is that the medical process is just a different animal this year. I think that, obviously the NFL is getting a grasp on it as we speak. I know there are NFL medical checks going involved, but it's different, right? Like I remember one year, and I forget the name of the player at the time. There was a player with a heart condition, right? And he was from Michigan. It was the interior defensive lineman. It's bothering me that I can't remember his name right now, but at this time of year, it's just, I have 8 million 2021 draft picks in my head. Maurice Hurst. So for Maurice Hurst, first round talent at the time, or second round talent at the time. And you ask around teams, and I couldn't find a team that could get their doctor to clear him to play, right? And now I don't talk to every single team, but the teams that I had connections with, they're like, we can't put him on the board. Like our team doctor won't allow it, on and on and on. And obviously the Raiders felt differently, and that's how that went. But that goes to show you how varying medical opinions are, right? Like this was a player that I couldn't find a team that was comfortable at the time taking him. Those don't necessarily exist this year, where you have this unique medical assessment of the doctor doing the one-on-one test. So the medicals is a totally different animal. As much as, sure, they're still getting information. They're getting it now. We're sitting here having this conversation April 8th. The draft is in 3 weeks. Like usually they have this information from the actual physical combine at the end of February. So the process is a little bit more just quite difficult. Like we'll see teams miss on players for injury reasons that they just couldn't detect. We'll see them miss on players for character reasons that they couldn't detect. They couldn't sit down and do in-person interviews with them. Everything is on Zoom. Anybody can, not everybody's the same person they actually are on Zoom. And those interviews are much quicker and different. So the entire process has just been, I don't want to say simplified, but it's definitely been, watered down a little bit, that you can't do as much. On the flip side of that, you're going to be drafting players more on tape, which I think is a good thing when all is said and done.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And like you said, the relationship side of things and who you trust and who you get really solid info from is going to be at the forefront, and obviously tape, which is great too. And this is Connor Rogers, obviously Bleacher Report, draft expert, draft analyst, whatever you want to go by, the host of what seems like 100 podcasts at this point. So I don't even want to get into one or two, because I feel like I'd be doing somebody else a disservice. But Connor's as good as it gets, and shoot him a follow on all his social platforms. You can check out the ticker. We'll throw out his Twitter, his Instagram, his Bleacher Report page. So like you're talking about relationships. Are there guys that, whether it's today, this week, last week, anybody that's sticking out to you as somebody who we should watch for, like you said, a Maurice Hurst, who's going to fall or going to, be drafted earlier than a lot of us expect, whether it is because of injury or, just because someone we just, even though there's, like you said, a million simulators, somebody we just don't expect to go this early?
Yeah, it's a great one because you look at it and, I think a lot of people are making a lot of assumptions off athletic testing at the moment as those numbers have rolled on in. And, Gregory Rousseau is someone for me that all summer we saw him talked about as this no-brainer top 15 pick. Then he opted out of the season and then obviously tested not very well considering for a defensive end or edge rusher. And then you're looking at it, and I know a lot of people in the draft community are probably thinking like, oh, man, I've seen people say he's a day 3 player. But then I've talked to NFL guys that are like, he's probably still a top 50 guy. So I guess it depends where you sit on the whole Gregory Rousseau thing. But I don't think not playing in the athletic testing has cost him the first 2 rounds like a lot of people are assuming. So I could see him being a second-round player still. I think the quarterback class is fascinating. There is just a whirlwind right now around Davis Mills. And, I don't necessarily agree with it. I look at him and think he's a day 3 quarterback all day, but it sounds like he'll go on the second day of the draft. So those are the ones that are like day 2 interesting players. I think on day 1, the ultimate wild card for me in the entire draft is probably Jalen Phillips because quite frankly, he is as talented as you would want from the edge rusher spot, but he had to medically retire after UCLA. He had concussions. He had really bizarre injuries or just unfortunate injuries. I think there was a lot of people behind the scenes or some scouts I talked to that were like, we don't know how much he really even wanted to continue to play football. And then he gets back, he goes to Miami, has the year off, he gets his body right, puts on a ton of muscle, a ton of weight, and just explodes in 2020 to the player everyone thought he would be when he was a 5-star recruit. And now it looks like he's back in the first-round conversation. Wow. So it's like you look at him at UCLA and you see the flashes as a freshman. It's like, oh, he's going to be a top 5 pick one day. The entire career kind of tumbles down and gets built back up. So if Jalen Phillips went in the top 15, I wouldn't blink at all. I just think he's talented at a premium position. The Giants are a team that needs edge rusher really badly. I don't know if we'll go 11, but it'll start there where so many teams need edge pass rushers that Jalen Phillips is this big domino. We're all waiting to see how it falls.
Are there character concerns there, Connor? Are there concerns with his character, like his love for the game, or is it just is it more of a physical thing?
I think it's medical. I really think it's medical. I think that, everybody at Miami just loved him. He was a dominant force there. He worked really hard. I think UCLA was a little bit different. I think there were some questions there just about his long-term future there, and he ultimately ended up transferring, and it all worked out. So I think with Jalen Phillips, if there were character questions, it feels like they are behind him, and it's just about medical now of him being able to have a long career and being worth that first-round investment because in terms of talent, teams just have no questions about that.
It's interesting because he could benefit from the just put on the tape, but he can also drop because of the medicals that they might not be able to get their hands around. So it's going to be interesting. Like I've heard the same thing about Phillips is like, I wouldn't be shocked if he's edge 1 on a team's board, or he falls, like you said, to, day 2 or day 3 because of the medicals. I'm sure he'll be off of some teams' boards too, but let's switch gears to the topic I'm sure you're tired of talking about, but everybody wants to. It's the quarterbacks and how you rank them. I felt like we do this on the past 3 or 4 shows, right? Right now, quickly, you can run through it because I'm sure you're going to go over it on all your shows and, the draft work that you put out in a few weeks. What's your top 5, or you can even go to 6 if you want. What's it looking like right now?
Yeah, it's been pretty static for me since December or January, where I have it that, Trevor Lawrence is number 1. That's never changed since summer. Right. And then I look at it. The riser's been Zach Wilson. He's been my QB2. Justin Fields right behind him. I think that, the crazy thing for me, guys, is I'd never have, 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the top 10 of a draft, and I have 4 in the top 10 this year. I think Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, and Lance, who, if Lance ends up having the best career out of all of them, I would not be shocked. He's my QB4, but he's still a top 10 player. Just loaded up with talent, all world character. I really hope he goes number 3 to San Francisco, despite all the Mac Jones talk. I think he'd be a megastar with Kyle Shanahan. I really do. So I stack it like that. I think they're in their own tier too. Like Lawrence is really special. Wilson, Fields, and Lance are really, really good. And then there's a drop off. Like Mac Jones is a round 2 player for me. And he's a good prospect.
Really?
Yeah, he's a good prospect. But I just look at the athleticism and body type and arm strength and the ability to push the ball at all 3 levels. And it's just not on the same level as those other guys. It's not. And maybe it looks, good at times because he's throwing to round 1 pick Devontae Smith, round 1 pick Jalen Waddle, round 1 pick running back Najee Harris, multiple offensive linemen that'll be drafted in the top 75 picks. And you can't knock Mac Jones for that. He's playing who he's playing with, right? And he stuck it out at Alabama after not getting to start over Tua, so you give him credit there. But physically, it's just a different ball game. When things break down around Mac Jones at the next level, I don't think he has the playing out of structure ability that the other 4 guys possess. And it's really, it's sad he's become almost like a meme on Twitter where people are freaking out about the Niners maybe taking him at 3 because he's a solid quarterback prospect. Like, you could see, I know people laugh at this, but like it's like a weird blend, like a little Chad Pennington, a little of when Andy Dalton was actually bringing the Bengals to the playoffs, not like Andy Dalton now that people are laughing at. Like he's a quarterback you can win games with, but is he going to elevate everyone around you and win games on his own, like Russ, like Rodgers, like Mahomes? Like, he's not that guy. He's not. And if you're taking him at 3, you traded 3 first-round picks for him, he has to be that guy. So it's a very interesting situation. And then after that, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills. Kyle Trask, a day 2 player. Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, top of day 3 players for me. And then after that, the quarterback class is not much to write home about.
All right, Connor. I am a big Venmo bet kind of guy. So we're going to make a Venmo bet, you and I. But I can't take your money. You can only win my money. So
it's a pretty good deal for me.
All right.
I like those kind of bets.
We'll make it nice because you chose to join our show and you're a great guy. So give me the top 4 picks in this in this draft. Jaguars 1, Jets 2, Niners 3, Falcons 4. How does it go? If you get it, I will Venmo you. Nick, how much money, Nick? Nick will be Brianna, you pick the money. Go ahead.
What did you say? The top 4?
If Connor gets the top 4 right, I will Venmo him a certain amount. Don't make it over $50.
I was gonna say do $10 per pick. So if he gets them all, it's $40.
Well, I got 2 layups.
Right. Well, he already got 2. All right, fine. We'll do that. Okay, 20's in the bank. Thanks, Bree.
Yeah, I mean, we know Trevor Lawrence is going 1. We feel pretty good about Zach Wilson going number 2. I'm going to go completely away from the, consistent narrative. I still am doubting Mac Jones at 3. And if it happens, it happens. I still think they moved up to take Trey Lance. I really do. And no one's saying it. No one will say it. I don't know why. They have nothing to hide now. But Kyle Shanahan does not strike me as this guy that, and I worked with Chris Sims for a long time. I love Chris. Kyle's not going to call Chris, a month ago and say, hey, this is who I'm taking. Or Adam. I don't think Adam Schefter would necessarily know that, right? There's no reason. So I don't know. I think it's going to be Trey Lance. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If it's Mac, I think it's a mistake. But that's how I feel it'll go. I feel like Trey Lance really is a perfect landing spot there. And then I think Atlanta's going to trade number 4. And a team is going to come up and take Justin Fields or maybe Mac Jones. But for the sake of actually making a choice here, I'll say Justin Fields at 4. I think Atlanta should take a quarterback. I've heard that they are leaning towards trading that pick, and it seems like everyone else has heard the same. The question is who's actually going to pony up to come up there. The Panthers knew they couldn't make a trade with Atlanta, so they had to move on to trading for Sam. The Broncos make some sense. We'll see how aggressive they get. The Patriots make a lot of sense if they can make that climb.
My follow-up.
The Bears know that they are going to get fired if things don't go well this year. I could see the Bears giving up everything to come up to 4. So if 4 is for sale, which I believe it is, I think it will be another quarterback to one of those teams I mentioned, and it'll probably be Justin Fields.
Okay, so in reality, do you think the Pats would make a move and trade up?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a while that you don't go out and spend all that money in free agency and plug and play all of these needs unless you want to keep your hand open to being aggressive for the draft, right? Like, you don't need all of these day 2 picks now. And I just had my sheet open. They have like 9 trillion picks this year quietly. Yeah. Nobody's really talking about that. Not that, they're going to have to give up maybe a future one to do that. But they make a ton of sense when you look at the Patriots. They really do. I think they're a team that, they have a bizarre run of picks in the 4th round, like 120, 122, 139. But they can trade 15, 46, 96, and a 1 next year, maybe make that climb. And then you're sitting there and going, well, we don't care about our round 2 or 3 picks because we have 2 starting tight ends, a starting wide receiver, an edge rusher. Like, we feel like we can win now and develop our quarterback of the future.
Interesting. Okay. And then last Patriots question, then we can just get back to the draft. What do you think is more likely to happen? They actually do trade up for a quarterback, or they get one Jimmy Garoppolo back?
Oh, I think a trade up. I think
really? Okay.
Yeah, I think the Niners should keep Jimmy. I think that you never want to. Now, I'm sure Jimmy's not thrilled, although he'll say the otherwise. But here it goes back to what I believe, and I wouldn't want to just draft Mac Jones and throw him on the field right away with no other solution. Like, whether you draft Trey Lance, whether you draft Justin Fields, whether you draft Mac Jones, you like having the option of Jimmy starting the season and letting those guys, even if it's for a couple weeks, right? And then you go to the rookie. We've seen that work well in the past where you're not just throwing him out there. You're not going to go back to Jimmy, right? So I think when you look at it, I think Jimmy stays, and maybe that changes draft weekend. I think it makes more sense too for New England to really take a swing. Go up and get one of these talented guys. Don't go back. I know Belichick, he loves Jimmy, loves him. But I just think, it doesn't matter right now. Like, you got to go up and be aggressive.
I agree. All right, this Pat's talk is making me nauseous.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I just had to get it out there.
Jeez, Brie,
we all know why we're here. We know who's going to be listening. It's the Jet fan base. They're salivating about building around Zach Wilson at this point. Who are some names that you're hearing, whether it is, let's forget about Wilson. Let's forget about the top tier of talent. Are there any guys that whether it's you've heard about it or somebody, a few names that you think they should go after? Who are some guys that Jet fans, and you could even throw some Giant fans in there too, we'll stay local. Who are some guys, after round 1 that you're hearing or you think these two teams should go after?
Yeah, I think the Jets are doing their homework on what this running back class looks like on day 2. And that's not a surprise, right? We think that, we feel, at least I've talked to people that feel pretty comfortable Najee Harris will go in round 1, no matter how much don't take a running back round 1 conversation happens. You have the Dolphins, you have the Steelers. There's a lot of landing spots for him. So assuming that it's Najee and then ETN goes in the top 45 picks, I don't think the Jets can afford to take a running back with one of those top 3 picks. Mm-hmm. It's just not something they can afford to do. They have too many needs. And then you get into the conversation of, okay, well, do your homework on who's there on round 3. Kenny Gainwell, Michael Carter. Those are the 2 that make a lot of sense to me, at least, because they might not be, like a Najee or an ETN that's going to get the ball 25 times a game. You're going to committee them with the running backs you have on the roster, but you feel like they can contribute pretty well. So I think you're going to hear a lot of buzz around the Jets and names like Kenny Gainwell, Michael Carter. I personally think Chuba Hubbard makes a lot of sense. I know everybody's soured on him. I like Chuba Hubbard a lot once he's healthy. And then, I think Javonte Williams goes too early. I know people love him. I love him. I think he'll be gone by the time the Jets start considering running back. So I think that makes a lot of sense for them. And then they're going to be, I would think that they're going to have to be all over this corner class or offensive line class at 34, no matter what they do at 23. They're going to have to see who falls down the board, right? Alex Leatherwood is somebody that makes a lot of sense to me. He's played guard. He's played tackle. Will Newsome's injuries cost him round 1, and he's sitting there at 34. Newsome's a great fit. Melifonwu from Syracuse is a really nice scheme fit. Maybe you can get him at 66, although I don't know if he makes it that long. So they're doing their homework on the areas that they did not go after in free agency, which is you could sit there and go, maybe that's, questionable business. Everybody knows what you're doing, but there's so many names in the draft that it doesn't matter. So the Jets are obviously doing all their homework on running back, offensive line, and corner. That's no secret. It wouldn't shock me if they take another edge. When you look at the Giants, they have really made a concerted effort to build around Daniel Jones, and I don't think it's over yet. I know everybody's excited over the Galladay signing. I think when you look at it, though, they're not done. They have a couple of receivers that we know can play. They have Saquon coming back. they still have holes at guard. And I said on the Bleacher Report show today, I look at Trey Smith in round 3 and just think he's a perfect fit. They lost Kevin Zeitler. They need to do something at guard. They need edge pass rush help. Like I said, Jalen Phillips talk probably starts at 11, although I could see them waiting a little bit longer on edge and seeing what blue chip player falls to them at 11, whether that's a Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, someone like that. Mm-hmm. The point is that the Giants are not done aiding Daniel Jones in a significant way.
Yeah, Connor, just popping in the film and looking at some of these prospects, I found myself just thinking, this draft class is amazing. I mean, it seems like there's 6 or 7 tackles that could end up becoming starters in this league. You look at the wide receivers speak for themselves. You have this quarterback class. I mean, based on all the research you've done with this class, would you say, I mean, where would you rank this class? Would you agree with me and say this is one of the best you've ever scouted?
In a lot of areas, yes. It starts with the wide receivers. Last year's was great. This one is probably better, honestly. Jamar Chase would be the best receiver in last year's class. I think I would take Jalen Waddle over any of those guys last year. CeeDee Lamb would be in the mix, but that's about it for me. And it's deep. I mean, I'm looking at the board I have right now. I got through 30, 32, 33 wide receivers this year that are all draftable. Wow. That's ridiculous. Like that's just insane. It's ridiculous. That's
maybe never happened ever.
No, exactly. And sure, somebody will probably get the short end of the stick and not hear their name called. But if any of those guys got picked, they absolutely earned being a draft pick. When you look at tackle, it's a great point. There's just so many players that can go in the top 100 that can develop into starters. You know about Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Christian Darrisaw. I think Alex Leatherwood can play tackle. Some people want him at guard. Tevin Jenkins can play tackle and get it at a high level. That's the one that makes so much sense at 23 for the Jets. I'm just not convinced he gets there.
Me too.
Eichenberg, I think Mayfield's a guard. No, I just can't see Douglas being that kind of guy to surrender picks. No. The one thing I'll say is,
I don't think he would, Nick.
The thing that has me kind of raising an eye is, did they accept a 2022 second and fourth rounder, knowing that they'll use that as trade chips this year instead?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The only thing I will say is, and this is kind of evil, there's a part of me that wonders, like, are the Panthers going to be any good? Do you want to move that second round pick? What if it's a top 40 pick next year? So maybe the fourth rounder is what they look to move. So yeah, I'm with you, Nick. I would move up for Tevin Jenkins. It's a plug and play upgrade. He could be your long-term right tackle. You can play him at guard right away. It's just a loaded offensive line and wide receiver class across the board.
All right. Well, I asked these guys this earlier. So obviously we have to ask you, who is your biggest sleeper in this draft? Because like I said earlier, I feel like we're really just talking about the quarterbacks and everybody else is just getting tossed to the wayside. So who do you have?
I feel like I have to change this answer like every other week because like Twitter just blows up a new prospect every week and they still haven't gotten this guy. So my late day 3 sleeper is Antonio Nunn, the wide receiver from Buffalo. They just don't throw the ball. And I feel bad for him because he's a stud. He really is. He's a good player. Great concentration and body control. Very tough before the catch. You can't press him at the line of scrimmage. He catches things in traffic. He's a tough player. Jarrett Patterson's gotten all the love out of that Buffalo program, and that's okay. He deserves it. He deserves to be drafted. But if you're looking for that 6th round wide receiver that just he's really, really good, honestly. I was blown away by how good the film is when they actually throw the guy the ball. None would be my guy all day. I don't see why he can't be a long-term number 3 or number 4 at the NFL. That you just see how sticky his hands are, and he's got late hands.
He looks good.
He's got
looks
late
a little bit
hands.
like Crowder. Crowder game.
Yeah, he's a smaller, more compact build. Really, really good acceleration, and DBs that try to run with him. They even when they cover him, he's got such late hands that it doesn't matter. So he's a good player. I really hope he gets drafted because I think he'll be one of the better day 3 wide receivers that just no one is talking about.
The Patriots should look into him since Edelman's not playing this year, so he'd be perfect in the slot for them.
Please relax with that.
Sorry.
Please.
All right,
Nobody said he wasn't playing.
Yeah, I thought I heard otherwise. He's going to try and play at least a little bit, but
that's the rumor. That's the rumor.
We've had Connor here for a long time. Again, obviously, Connor Rogers, Bleacher Report draft expert. I call him. Even if they don't call you that, I call you that, Connor.
I appreciate
if I text it to you on the side.
I appreciate it.
Do we have Splash or Bree? Do we have any fan app or chat questions lined up? If you haven't entered yours, enter yours right now quickly. We can throw them up, and then we'll let Connor run out of here. I know he's got to run, so
It's okay.
we'll throw a few up there. And Dan's got the first one. That's actually a pretty good one. Who do you see making a head scratching move in the same vein of Chicago going up 2 picks for Trubisky?
I mean, we might have already seen it. If Mac Jones goes 3, it's not that he's a bad, like he's not Trubisky.
I know.
Right? He's not
I know
a bad
what you
player.
mean.
But it's hard to sit here and say trade 3 first-rounders for Mac Jones. The talk of Jamin Davis being a top 20 pick, he's a nice player, not a first-round player. And
over JOK too? Like,
oh, it's
is
nuts.
that going to happen?
It sounds like it. It's really nuts. So those are the ones that, to me, like it's hard to draft off-ball linebackers in round 1. They got to be really good cover guys or do something special. So those are the 2 for me that I'm like, oh man, like what is Dallas going to do at 10? Are they going to shock us, or are they just going to take the best player? That's the one I have my eyes on.
You think there's any shot Dallas moves up for Pitts?
It's a good one with Jerry sitting there. You never know. I just think that I feel like the Bengals will take Chase, and then I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I think that Pitt's falling to 10 just wouldn't shock me. Like,
really?
Everybody's turned Pitts into this like they've turned Pitts into like the Myles Garrett prospect, like the non-quarterback that's just too good to not take. And like I love him, but I don't like. I think Jamar Chase is a better prospect. I don't know. I think Penny Sewell's a better prospect. Like the hype has gotten a little crazy where like I want people to be prepared for him to not be a top 4 or 5 pick in this draft.
Yeah, we had people on the show saying that he was the best prospect in this draft all around,
better than Trevor
quarterbacks
Lawrence.
Included.
Wow.
Somebody said that. It wasn't me.
He's got great hands. He's a good athlete. He's huge. He's a tight end. Like he should not be a bust. There's no, but do you think he's Rob Gronkowski or Travis Kelce? That's what I asked Adam Lefko today on the show.
A breed. Yeah.
Exactly. Those guys change your run game, and Kyle Pitts does not do that.
He's not going to do that at all. Yeah.
So I just wonder how valuable that tight end is at the next level. In the right offense, he could be a killer, a great player. But I don't know. I just think people really need to be prepared for a tight end not going in the top 5.
And that's my worry with a guy like Pitts. It's like, let's say he does go to Miami for whatever reason, and he goes, and you're expecting number 6 overall stats and like numbers that like Jamar Chase could put up, and he's a tight end, and you have to limit your expectations. What if he goes out and he has 500 yards and 6 touchdowns? Is that going to be just because of playing the tight end position? Is that going to be worth a number 6 overall pick? Like that's what I always find myself doing, like struggling with that.
We were saying it on last week's show. He doesn't move like a tight end. Sometimes these tight ends, when they're that quick and fast, sometimes they don't find their spots on the field. They're playing more like a wide receiver than they are a tight end. So it's interesting to see like where Pitts, but he's a freak, as you know.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, he could take something underneath and take it for 6. So, all right, this kid's posted 1,000,000 times. We're gonna get your question, Connor. Do you see this question? This kid's obsessed with this guy. Is that your brother?
No.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Firemouth to the Jets? Not crazy. I mean, listen, he's a really good pass catcher, really good seam target. He's a good effort blocker. He's not like this, George Kittle kind of going to throw you in the ground. But yeah, exactly. Tremble's a great blocker. Like he's got good feet where he can get to his spots, and you're going to be asked to do that in a wide zone rushing attack. So he's a nice player. It's a good fit. The question is, you're probably not getting him at 66. Are you willing to take him at 34? Yeah, I just don't think the Jets can do that.
I agree.
We got any app questions loaded for Connor before?
I think Splash said we got them.
By the way, Connor, someone gave me love on your headshot and said you need a headshot like Connor. What are you doing with yourself?
I can't even. It was a random picture when I was down at Auburn. And I just use it for everything now because I'm like, well, thank you, dude. I feel bad. I don't even know who took it. I'm just like, well, now I don't have to get like one of those goofy headshots where I dress up and stand in front of like a white wall and I like turn and smile. I don't have to do that anymore. So I'm very thankful for it.
I think you got the best background in the game too. I know that's is this your like Zoom /
This is my home office now. There's no going to work anymore. So I needed something that works, and it's been a nice luxury, man. When the pandemic started, I was in my old place and I was doing shows out of my room, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I cannot wake up and sit where I work all day. You get to the point where you lose your. I am very much looking forward to going back into a studio.
Yeah. Are you for Bleacher Report? Are you doing a studio set for the draft?
So we will be down in Atlanta this year. Where they do all the big, all the big NBA on TNT shows.
Yeah,
and
TNT,
yeah. We'll have a lot of space. I'm looking forward to being back on a desk talking to humans face to face.
Very nice. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, so we have some questions here.
Let's see what we got.
Question one, I'm going to ask you this. Connor, why is the uSTADIUM app better than the Bleacher Report?
Damn.
That's question. What's up with that?
You guys are going to get me in trouble. I can't speak on that. Let's just say they're both
you guys have a lot more users than us.
They're very good app. Man, but if I say the wrong thing on the Bleacher Report app, they are I think the uSTADIUM has a nice Jets score where if I speak about something else on the BR app, that they'll come after me. So I got to watch myself a little bit more.
Fair.
What's another? What do we got down here?
How will Sam Darnold do in Carolina? How do you think? We were speaking about that before. What are your thoughts there?
I think he'll never take the step into being the guy people thought he would be, and that's a top 8 quarterback. I don't think those days will ever come for Sam. He just doesn't see the field well enough and just doesn't process that, and the deep ball isn't great. But can he be average? I think he can get there in a very quarterback-friendly offense with Joe Brady. Mm-hmm. I mean, he can do a lot of things they're going to ask, a lot of timing, a lot of rolling out, getting him on the move. My question is, everybody is just killing Teddy Bridgewater, saying they needed this upgrade. I am not sure that Sam is this lock as this huge upgrade over Teddy. Mm-hmm. So I think the turnovers will be, a bigger problem, but there might be more bigger plays. So I don't see it, guys. I know it's tough. And I think Sam can be an average quarterback that has a long NFL career, but there were times where people were comparing him to Andrew Luck or whoever you want. It's just not, I don't see it.
Nick, why are you shaking your head? You were comparing him to Andrew Luck.
No, because I never compared him to Andrew Luck. I had him. I loved him, and I still do.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, the Jets did him dirty.
They did.
You could argue that we'll never know. Yeah,
they gave him no support out there.
I was shaking my head almost as a disappointment for how this ended and turned out. Nobody likes to see. You don't want to see what happened to him. Yes, of course he takes blame for how it turned out, but man, I feel that he just didn't have a chance here. So it was just like you said, they did him so dirty, and you hate to see just Adam Gase come in 2 years and just completely tear down a guy's career. I expect his career is over as a starting quarterback, a top level guy. I don't see it ever happening, and that's crazy to think after how excited we were in 2018 for this guy. So it's just it's bittersweet to see it, but credit. I thought Douglas did a great job to get what he did from Carolina. And, I hope he goes on and does well with, I'm a big fan of Joe Brady's, but I just don't, I don't see it happening either. But,
well, it's a double-edged sword, right? If Sam goes out and has even a middle of the pack season, right? And everybody starts seeing more flashes and the turnovers go down. I mean, Joe Brady's getting a head coaching job.
Yep.
So then it's will Sam still look like that without him? And who knows? Mm-hmm. But it's just very fascinating how Carolina will play out these next 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're all in agreement. We mentioned that before, right? You're hitching your wagon to Sam Darnold. It's kind of a risky move for Joe Brady.
And Matt Rule has a 6-year deal. He's the only guy that could have done it. He really is. If the Broncos did it and it doesn't work, Fangio's fired. Washington was interesting. I think they had a little bit more runway, but they obviously bowed out. Chicago, I thought whatever they do, they have to be right or they're fired. So that, I would probably take the swing with Sam than Andy Dalton and Nick Foles.
Yeah,
but each their own.
Doesn't it feel like there's Nagy's got it? There's no winning for him this year. I think he's going regardless. He just feels like that lame duck situation.
It's a tough division to be in, right? Green Bay is a powerhouse right now. The Lions are going to compete. They're not going to be good, but they're at least going to go out and try to give you a hard time.
They'll sneak out a few crazy wins.
They'll play for that coach. Yeah. I don't think Goff is as terrible as everyone else says. I don't know if Detroit's a great spot for him, but and then the Vikings got a lot of injuries.
They'll be good this year, I think.
Right? They'll bounce back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they're
going to win at least 8 games.
The Bears are going to be picked to finish 3rd in that division. And like you said, Nick, that's not good enough for that coaching staff.
Because he made the playoffs last year, and there was still, if he goes down, he almost got fired again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Interesting. All right. Well, Connor, we'll let you run. We appreciate that. We'll connect after the draft, whether we do something on the app or we have you on again to kind of recap it. But let everybody know where they can check you. I didn't want to, with the podcast thing, I want you to sign off on your own and throw out where and when people can check you out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with all the Jets stuff, I do it on the Badlands show, but draft-wise, it's all Bleacher Report. We're going to be live all 3 days, Bleacher Report app, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you really want to watch the show. So I'm biased. I think it's better than the TV coverage. As someone growing up watching the TV coverage, I think we're just it's more about the players and the picks. And we have, I can't announce it yet, but we have a pretty great lineup for who will be working with me this year on the desk. And I think it'll really, really excite people when they see, some new faces as analysts with the draft. So that's really what my mind is on right now. I'm really excited to get down to Atlanta and do the show for all 3 days. Awesome.
Well, dude, I'm happy for you. You've earned it. Like, you're crushing it out there. Love reading your stuff. Love listening to you on the pod. So keep it up. We'll always be checking in. We'll always be reading and sharing your stuff. So keep it up, man. We'll be looking forward to watching you on the draft.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me.
Connor. Thanks for coming on, man.
See you, buddy.
See you later.
Connor's the man.
Awesome.
And he
always has been.
He said exactly what we said about Sam Darnold.
A few times, too.
A to Z. He literally regurgitated exactly what we said. I mean, it was it's not something, as a Jets fan, you don't want Sam Darnold to not reach his potential. I want him to go to Carolina and kill it. It's just, I don't know. He was
feel like it's gonna.
It wasn't that the talent wasn't there. You saw a resemblance of what could potentially be a top 10 quarterback at times. Remember, Nick, he had that stretch. I don't know if it was year 2, I think. He led the league in QBR for the last 4 games of the season. I mean, he against Houston. Remember that huge
some
game
windows.
he had?
Yeah, some windows.
Yeah,
where
2018.
And it seemed to be like like you said, like the last few games of the year. It always seemed to be like it gave you that little bit of jolt into the offseason, some excitement, but Splash said played well against Rodgers, played well against Watson and the Texans that year. There were a few games where you just were like, this is the guy, so it brought you into the offseason with some excitement, and he was never able to replicate it, and the team was never able to, support him. So, it was unfortunate. That's why I said it's bittersweet to see him go, because I think we all agree it was time for him to go, time to invest in Wilson and move on. But you feel
what's another
kind of how it played out.
Another thing with quarterbacks that's very underrated is availability. Are they able to play, and can you count on them every freaking Sunday? Give someone like Eli Manning, for example. If Eli Manning had some injuries and wasn't able to consistently play, maybe the Giants would have gotten rid of him before he won his first Super Bowl. When you're not playing,
I wish they did.
It's true, though. Man. I mean, look at Carson Wentz missing games. You're gone, man. We traded the farm for you. We gave you a lot of money. You're gone if you're not available. And that's something with Sam Darnold. I mean, the mono thing. Then he got hurt, and you can't depend on this guy. I mean, it's not what you want out of a quarterback. You want an available quarterback. It's underrated. The injury factor when it comes to quarterbacks. It's ruined quarterbacks' careers. RG3 is an example. I mean, you're done. It's over.
And that's what
you get hurt all the time.
I really don't understand what people in my area don't understand about that. Your best ability is availability. That's what it is. Jimmy G doesn't have that. So I don't know. I've told you guys, people here, like the vast majority just don't want Cam. So they're willing to, I guess, to push that aside and completely forget about all of that just for the sake of having Jimmy G back. But I mean, the second Jimmy breaks a freaking nail for all I care. He's out for 3 weeks. And then what? He's the typical Italian mama's boy who he skips his knee in the driveway and he can't walk for.
And his mom does his laundry. Kind of like
and
mine.
His mom still does his laundry. Exactly.
Hey, moms do the best laundry. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Let's
never do mine as good.
Yeah. Nick, you're like obsessed with laundry. Whenever I go to Nick's house sometimes, like back when we were young, you and your dad would like always be doing laundry. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like you guys had like a little connection with laundry. It was weird. It's like, oh, did you do the laundry? No.
I like when the shirts smell good, man.
Yeah, you guys are like
awesome right now.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. What do we have to finish off the show?
the best prospects, because we kind of touched on it with Kyle Pitts in the draft, talk with Connor, and if anybody wants to call in and have a question,
and like the stream, always like the stream. Subscribe to the channel, uSTADIUM on YouTube. The app is uSTADIUM.com/download, and follow us across social, Instagram and Twitter. It's easy. It's at uSTADIUM.
That's right. Very nice. Nicely done, Frank. I guess we'll do the best prospects that we've seen in like our lifetime as fans have been following the draft and stuff. If somebody wants to call in, you have questions, you want to throw them in the chat, we can answer those really quick. We went a little longer, but this has been fun. The draft talk I could talk forever about. But Splash, you want to throw up mine first here. So this is best prospects in terms of skill players, your receivers, your running backs, your tight ends. And this is basically going back as like I remember the Reggie Bush draft always sticks out to me, and the Adrian Peterson draft. So there's a lot of guys we left off, a lot we can argue about. Frank's got a different list than mine. He's got some similar names, but Julio Jones to me sticks out as a guy. I watched him in college. I followed him into the NFL, obviously the draft process. He is as good and as clean of a prospect as I've ever seen. Calvin, obviously number 2 with hit 6'5". I think he ran it in I think he ran a 40 at his size, like 4.39, 4.4. And this was when guys weren't running like these 4.32s, as you see now. But like those two guys as receivers were, Georgia Tech really didn't throw the ball too much. That's why when Calvin did what he did and then came into the NFL and was just like, may have had the best 4 or 5 year window any receivers ever had. Reggie Bush, to me, even though it didn't work out in the draft, I remember as a Jet fan, I was like 15, going down to, I think it was like the Hard Rock Cafe where the Jets always had these draft parties. And we were outside on the line waiting to get in, checking like radio shows, dying for the Jets to trade up for Reggie Bush that year. Like he was a prospect where everybody was like, you can't pass this guy. He's going to be like all world. The kick returns, the catching the ball. It was like a different world then too, even though it was only 10, 12 years ago, whatever.
He didn't go to the right
more
team.
Than that. Yeah, I agree.
He didn't get drafted to the right spot.
Yeah, at that time. But, if he would have played in today's game, maybe he would have been one of the best in the league. AP, to me, like, I don't know, when I think of, like, your workhorse back that we've seen in the past, like, 15, 20 years, I think of AP and what he did at Oklahoma, the MVP season, the video game era he was in on like, the back end of it, like, growing up, Frank, like, playing with AP in Madden. He was just, like, so him coming into the draft, like, drafting a running back in the first round. That was when teams still did it. But
he may be in your top 5 running backs of all time conversation.
Yeah, he could be. And he's still playing, even though he's not
and
signed.
Put him in there. He's amazing.
For sure. I know what he's doing. Like, he could still run the ball. And maybe the shocker here is what Kyle Pitts is doing. Like, it sounds crazy to have him in over guys like, some receivers we've seen. Even the receiver like a Jamar Chase, like having a guy like Kyle Pitts. And I know Connor said he has Chase over Pitts, and I don't blame him. Like, I love Chase. I would pick Chase before I pick Pitts just because of the position situation. But watching this guy play, and like if you put him in the right offense and used him like they use Kelsey, even though they're different players, but I'm saying like make him a focal point of your offense where it runs through him, what he can do with his wingspan, his catch radius, his ability to go up and get it, the speed, the mismatch that he can be in a passing offense and a pass-heavy league that's found out really how to use tight ends. Him coming into the draft and what he did in Florida last year was like, I've never seen that before from a tight end. So I put him up there with some of the best receivers I've ever seen coming into the draft. So I'm so like excited, I guess you could say, about where this guy lands. And I hope it's in a good spot, because if he does land in a good spot, I think he's a Hall of Famer. So I'm really curious to see where he lands up.
Wow. All right. Well, that's
you got yours, Frank?
What a way to end that.
Yeah, my list. I'll go through it quickly. I have Julio up there, obviously. Just a freak. What's interesting about Julio, and when he was drafted, Nick and Bree, was AJ Green was actually drafted before Julio Jones. People forget about that. Calvin, we went over. He ran a 4.35. Someone corrected that. And I also think he ran a 4.32 at his pro day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But you can check that out.
Pro days lie.
Yeah, of course. It's like hand timed. It's like it can easily just be off by
Calvin's mom timed him.
Yeah, honestly. Saquon, I think it was the best overall combine workout I've ever seen. And it did sort of translate into what we saw initially from Saquon. He's a freak of nature, and the combine metrics just prove it. If you look at it, I mean, he was just a monster. I don't think I've ever seen someone that was like, he's like a perfect running back prospect. He still, and I could still see him becoming at some point the best running back in this league, but Saquon just destroyed that combine. I don't think I've ever seen a running back like that. Chris Johnson, CJ2K. Before he was CJ2K, he ran a 4.24 40, which was then an NFL record. That just like put everyone on notice. So I had to put him up there. He's just, the speed is just blistering. It's crazy. And last but not least, you know, when you think of NFL combines and you just think of like beasting a combine, I just think of Vernon Davis, like him coming out of Maryland, running that crazy, 4.3, what was it? A 4.3, 8.40, a 42-inch vert, a 10.8 broad jump. I mean, he just killed it at his combine. And he, to this day, when I think of just like combine warrior, he's the guy that I think of. So those are
Singletary sniffed him out when he was the rat in San Fran.
Yeah. Can't win with him.
Best interviews all time.
Can't win with him. Can't coach with him.
Do you guys think anybody is ever going to top Julio and Megatron as just prospect ability?
Yes.
I think
just
so.
Because of how good these guys are becoming. You know, I think
you're gonna get a guy like John Ross, who's 6'3", who's gonna be coming into the league with that speed. He's 6'3", and maybe he's more physical and wants it more than maybe a Julio or Calvin does at times. Sometimes people question their aggression towards the ball and whatnot. So I think so. You might see it in
bigger, faster, stronger now.
Yeah, you might see it in this draft. And that was the thing that we were talking with Connor about in terms of this being in my opinion, the best draft class I've ever just looked at, just watching guys. I mean, I'm like, these players are so quick and they're not hesitating, and they're smooth and they're agile and they're strong. And it's like, you're seeing, I think now we've hit like a pinnacle of just like studded athlete, physically speaking, that it's just, these guys are on another level. I mean, it's just, we've hit such a peak at this point that it's kind of scary to think like where things will be in 20 years, but the way everyone's eating now and training and it's just going to continue to just evolve. And you just see like right now, it's like just peak athletes everywhere.
Agreed.
Offensive linemen, defensive tackles, linebackers, safeties, obviously wide receivers, running back, even quarterbacks. It's crazy. Look at Justin Fields, 6'3", cannon, runs a 4.4. By the way, Niners, you should take him third. You really should. If you don't, you guys are really stupid. I don't know, and I don't care what Chris Sims ranked Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the third, I'll say easily the third best prospect in this class. He's top 3. I don't see how he's not. So not to get too much into it, but they need to take him third.
I hear you. All right, unless we have any other questions, Splash, Loaded, or callers, or whatever it may be, I think we can wrap us up and send us home here. If not,
we are done.
I will say, though, before we end the show, Connor saying that the Pats are more likely to trade up scares the living daylights out of me because of that nice little rant. The nice little rant I went on like a week or two ago.
I think Frank deserves to put you on blast, though.
That's going to come back and bite me in the ass now.
Yeah,
I want the Pats to trade up for Mac Jones so bad. Oh, that would make my night.
It's gonna come back and bite me in the ass. I can feel it.
Trade up to 4 with the Falcons.
No, not Mac Jones, please.
Yes, and take Mac Jones after Fields goes
Connor
third.
sour you on Mac Jones a little bit?
I mean,
a little bit.
I've never thought that he was all that special. I think I just kind of fell into the hype that everybody else is. The hype surrounding him
wild right now.
But if I wanted a pudgy frat boy, like I'd go down to Foxborough High School and get a quarterback there.
You do a show with one.
Yeah.
Oh my something. Unbelievable, Nick.
Hey, it wasn't me, so.
Hey, I just wasn't in the frat. So.
You know, he reminds me. Mac Jones reminds me of like a better AJ McCarron. He does. I mean, he kind of looks like him. He's got like the same
Connor
posture.
said Pennington, like I said. Pennington who likes to booze a little bit.
Yep. Speaking of boozing, right. Bree, what's the beverage of choice this evening? I know you got wine or something in your mind.
I have
definitely.
wine in the fridge, and I'm gonna make chicken piccata for dinner. So I'm gonna cook with it too.
Nice.
And the Bruins are on, so I'm gonna pop the Bruins game on, and that's gonna be my Thursday night.
They play hockey, right?
They do play hockey. They do.
Keep notes.
Yes.
No, your Red Sox, Bree, they won 3 in a row. What is it? Is it 4 in a row?
No, they won again today, 4 in a row.
There you go.
Listen, good things
jinxed
happen.
them, Nick.
Good things happen when I'm allowed to go back to games. I don't know what to tell you guys. So.
Maybe Judge will go to a game this year too, Frank.
You know what? When that guy plays, he's phenomenal, though, isn't he?
If he plays.
When Aaron Judge plays, he is, in my opinion, a top 5 player in baseball when he plays. Yeah. I want another healthy season. Give me 150 damn games for once. Last time he did it, he should have won MVP, but the cheater Altuve won it. So I need another 150 games from Aaron Judge, please.
Ooh, I think you got to lower that expectation. He's already missed 2.
When he plays, he's great, and I'm saying that as a Red Sox fan, and I can't stand him. But when does he play?
I know.
That's the that's the kicker.
I can't talk about it anymore, you guys. I will bow my head.
Frank, last question before we go. Does Judge getting rid of the gap bother you?
Yes, a lot.
Me too.
Really?
Me too. But I can't.
No, I mean, listen, he did fix his teeth, but like the gap, you got to kind of, being a fellow gap person, it's
fellow gap tooth. You got to
people do look at it once in a while. They can tell, but it gives you character. It's what you're naturally born with. Don't have to change everything.
There you go.
His teeth do look nicer though. His other teeth needed work, so I guess it was like something he just like. You're not going to fix everything and then not the gap. It like makes no sense.
Good point.
Just fix everything,
You're right.
Yeah. No. So you don't change the tires on your car if you have bad brakes. You have to change the brakes too. Just get it all done.
Yep.
We have a few before we sign off, Bree. We have a few prospects that'll be on the show in the coming weeks. Javonte Williams, running back UNC, is going to hop on. Melifonwu, cornerback from Syracuse, is going to hop on. A few other guys who we're talking with, they'll be hopping on in the next few weeks leading up to the draft. So we're going to have a ton of draft content on the show, on the app, Instagram, Twitter. Follow it all at uSTADIUM. Download the uSTADIUM app. I stole your thunder, Bree, so I'll let you sign us off.
No, that's totally okay. Lots of cool things are happening.
Bree, I have some outro music right now for us.
No.
Once you give me the A-OK, we can drop this outro right now. So it's your call.
No way. All right. Well, with that being said, we're out of here. So Frankie, take us home.
Oh, never mind. Hold on. I got it.
Oh my God.
No, I got it. I have to put it.
We pay Splash the big bucks.
You hear it?
No.
Oh, it's probably so you hear it?
Hold on. We have to get this outro. We have
to,
or else the show is not complete.
It's not over.
I have this.
The beauty of live. This is it right here.
This is it. All right. Last try. If this doesn't work, I am toast. I am going home. For some reason, this is not playing, but whatever. We're going to link the outro on our podcast, so you'll hear it on the podcast.
We'll edit it.
What am I going to do? I can't. My computer. Fiverr today kicked me out. Workplace wasn't working. There's like
Facebook and Instagram completely crashed for 3 hours.
We're getting hacked by someone. So hopefully Big Joe up there is getting ready for a big hack going on. So yeah, watch out. They're coming. They're coming from all angles, Joe.
Oh my God, we are out of here.
Brother.
We're out of here. We'll catch you guys next week.